Welcome to anyone who is new to Friday Open Mic. This is where we gather as a community to review some of the interesting updates and announcements from Rewst, as well as have some members of our community showcase some of the cool automations, workflows, tips and tricks, etc. that they have been working on in Rewst. One of the main things that we always share and highlight is about asking questions. No one gets anywhere in automation without asking questions. So that's what we're here to do. Ask questions, put them in the chat. If you're not part of our Discord community, join and ask questions in there. You can post them in the Queuwp, or we have vendor specific or technology specific channels under Birds of a Feather too. What else we want to talk about is Flow. Flow is coming up. The countdown is on less than 60 days. Our conference that's vendor agnostic, centered around automation at the end of June down in Florida. Olivia's posted the link in the chat. If you want more information or haven't bought your tickets yet, please do so. You'll notice there is a discount if you buy more than one. So maybe don't just go yourself, bring a friend, send your technicians. But either way, we would love to see you down there in person. What else am I missing? I've talked about Flow, I've talked about asking questions, I've talked about asking Discord, or not asking, but joining and using Discord. I feel like there's something else. Anyone? Folders when prod. Never. No, just kidding. Skyline chili. I still haven't had it. Maybe I'm going down to Florida next week for MSPGeekCon. Maybe that'll be the time. We'll see. Someone wants to meet. Is it a breakfast thing? A lunch thing? I don't know. That's it, Tim. How many questions would succeed without asking questions? The answer is a big fat 0, of course. And make sure you're always saving your work and entering your time savings. Okay, you don't know how much improvements you're getting and how much more efficient you'll be if you're not entering those time savings. Okay, we will get it kicked off here. Today we've got some exciting community demos from Will, Aaron, and Nick. But first up, it is everybody's favorite Canadian, the poutine-loving, curling Mr. Danial, to bring us some product updates. Welcome, Danial.
Everybody's favorite Canadian. Wow. It's a controversial statement. First controversial statement of the day.
I like throwing them out there to kind of stimulate the chat. I'm sure there'll be some general comments about that comment in there now, but over to you, sir.
Thank you. All right. So today or this week, we have made some changes to our transforms. Dan Hayes is just a monster when it comes to transforms. We've taken some of them out of the beta tag, and we've also improved the functionality of our sort transforms to accept more than just lists, add reverse parameter, as well as some case sensitivity. We've added the GPT-4.0 Mini model to the OpenAI integration. We've also continued with a lot of these great improvements from our portals team. Shout out to the likes of Sarah, George, James, Bertrand, Neil. Everybody on that team is just doing a great job of iterative improvements to App Builder, just improving the usability. We've also had a few bug fixes that happened. One that I'm just going to call out here is when we launched our new Clea, there was a bug that prevented read-only users from launching it. So now that should be fixed. Your read-only users should have the ability to get into Clea, take the courses, all that fun stuff. So if you're looking to work some of your users up to that Rewst, Rewst edit or Rewst member status, this is a good way of giving people limited access at first before they start learning. Couple of coming soon items still. We're still in beta for GraphQL. The GraphQL action that gives access to a few extra endpoints within Rewst, so you can get some extra information, create triggers, adjust some more user adjusting functionality. We have the improved workflow and workflow results search and filter. We're hoping to get that out next week. That'll just make search and filtering better in the workflow results page as well as in the workflow page, including things like negative filtering or inverse filtering. So by not this or not that. And then we have the workflow executions dashboard widget. Aaron asked for a little leak. What I can do is do a little leak here. So this is what our dashboard page looks like just for an internal organization that we have. So you have time saved, you have task performed, and then if you scroll down, you have some more in-depth information on workflows that have run. Now, we're not launching this yet because this table is only running against your org, not your sub-orgs. So if you have any workflows running against your sub-organizations, this will not reflect that at the moment, and that's why we haven't fully released it yet. So this will help you to figure out, okay, what workflows are actually saving me the most time, what workflows are saving me time but don't have a time saved metric, so I'm not reporting on it correctly. Yeah, and lets you do a whole bunch of search and filtering there, downloading CSVs, all that fun stuff. Back to, so there's the leak of the day. You're welcome, Aaron, even though he's not on the call. Okay, so if we just go into here, you can see that the transform sort actually can take more than just a list here now. It also has the reverse sort. And then if you look at our OpenAI crate, we have Chat GPT-4.0 Mini. I can quickly run this. This isn't going to be anything too crazy, but yeah, if you look at the result here, I had a list of numbers and the reverse sort was true. And you can see that it sorted that from top to bottom. And then if we quickly just go into App Builder here, a lot of like great, again, iterative minor adjustments are being made. So we're taking it piece by piece. So you can see here that we've just improved the entire navigation here. So you can view the page state directly from up in the top nav. Also our query builder, great tool for generating URL query strings, is now available here as well. But yeah, that's all for me. Sorry about the light mode. Let's see if we can do something about that. Can I do that? Oh no, that was the wrong thing. I was trying to do something else. Anyway, that's it for me today.
Things are going so well until the very end there, Dan. No, well done. Lots of great comments coming through in the chat there. Great job, product team. Next up, Mr. JP with some updates on the marketplace. Oh, bam, there it is. Pink on dark. Neon, if you will. Mr. Jareth, over to you, sir.
Hello, everyone. This week in the marketplace, we released the SuperOps PSA bit. So that's available in production for anyone who wants to give it a try. We also have, we created we did a V2 of the Chocolatey deployment crate. And that is also available, as well as a kind of like a V1 proof of concept of what we want to do with our low disk free space monitoring. Also have a number of bug fixes that we implemented, and we're also still planning on doing a refactor of the Acronis deployment crate. Just to show off the two new crates, we have, this is the Chocolatey deployment crate in its refactored form. You can see we're using our function sub-workflows. It's pretty straightforward. Has a nice clean form that you can use to deploy packages by name. You can choose multiple computers, and you can put some notes in a ticket. This is, like I said, kind of a V1 of, there are a lot of features we want to add to this, but alerting on low disk space for computers. It's pretty, again, straightforward. Although I have the results. Let me see if I can, okay, it is, it's just up here. It's pretty straightforward. You go through, you get your computers, you filter out with the transform your offline computers, you collect your drive information, and then you're going to, let me collapse this. We're going to put that in a nice little format so it's easy to process. And then we're going to, again, use a transform to filter out the ones that have low disk space on them. And then we're going to generate tickets based on that information. You can, it's intended to run per organization on a cron job, and you can configure whether or not it generates a ticket. You can also adjust the free space percentage. So that's everything from Marketplace this week.
Great, thanks so much, JP. I have realized I forgot to do the game tip of the week. Ashley made it clear that that was something to share. And so for all the gamers out there, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is apparently one of the best games ever. So check that out. But I also know a lot of folks were pretty excited about the new and improved Oblivion. And as someone who only got involved with Skyrim, you know, I haven't actually played Oblivion before, so I'm wondering, am I the target market? Do I go back now and play this? So, because I'm a big fan of Bethesda Studios stuff. So, anyway, moving on. Education time. Education update. Clea, am I calling upon you, or is it Eddie the Legend?
It is me. Not going to be offended at all that I am not as legendary as Eddie, but here we go. I shared a link to the updates in the chat, and I'll point out some things in Queuwp as we go along. I want to start with shout-outs as always. So big shout-outs to Andrew, Tim, Jay, or maybe it was Tim J. I'm not sure. Ben, Chris, Olivier, David, Sander, Chris, Anthony, Anto, Levash, Adrian, and Sam for passing the foundation certification, and our very own Taz from Rewst. If your name has not been mentioned in this capacity at an open mic call, what are you waiting for? Go into Cluck University, speed run through the courses, take the cert, and get your fancy badge and Discord thinger mabob. That is the official term. Shout outs to Kasuni, Ben, Adrian, Juamar, Adrian, Kina, Andrew, and Cody for clean automation certification. Again, what are you waiting for if you don't have that cert yet? Also available for you in Cluck University. And it is open book, so that may or may not be how I passed my own clean automation. As a heads up, there is no live training next week because our legendary Eddie Chow will be presenting at MSPGeekCon. If you have any feedback, any questions, anything at all you want to share with us, reach out to us at CluckU in Discord, or you can always email clucku@rewst.io. And as always, we have office hours available in the new CluckU. How do I find it? How do I find it? Go to the calendar, and you should see some live events for office hours. And the last thing I want to point out is for anyone who did recently earn their certificate, you should be able to scroll down, see all the training that you have registered and either completed or forgotten about entirely if you're like me, but you can access your certificate and a little LinkedIn button if you so choose. So let us know if you have any issues, and congrats to the recent certificate achievers.
Thank you, Clea. Yeah, lots of people loving the new LMS and being able to track progress. And this week, I heard specifically a lot of great things about the Ginger course that's out there. So if you haven't already checked out the new and improved Cluck University, guys, make sure you go and get your learnings in. We have bite-sized courses now, as well as learning snacks, as some people refer to them, which I love.
Yeah, I wish they were real snacks, but they're just snacks for your brain. So I'll go ahead and link those micro courses and the Ginger course in the chat.
Brain food. Awesome. Thanks, Clea, and good job, education team, as always. All right, we're going to kick it to some community members now. So just a heads up, we'll be speaking with Will, Aaron, and Nick. Will, you are up first, sir, on my agenda. I believe you've got some pretty cool things you want to show around Power BI and some reporting.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I talk really fast, and I've got kind of a bundle of workflows to go through. So if you need me to slow down, somebody just yell at me, please.
No problem. Well, but before you jump in, maybe just a couple of quick fire questions to set the scene, as it were. Can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, how long you've been using Rewst, and maybe just an overview of some of the manual processes that you're going to show us how you're automating things today?
Sure. So I'm Will Young. I'm from Barry McKinley. If you guys don't know about us, we're a management consulting firm for MSPs. I come from the RMM world, grew up with Automates. I've been using Rewst for 2 or 3 years now, and anytime I get annoyed with the process or have to do something that is manual, the first thing is, how can I use Rewst to make my life easier? And that's kind of how excuse me, this journey of mine started, because I'm sure all of you guys know a lot of the products in our channel, the reporting, the baked-in report writers stink. And then there are a lot of great reporting tools, but they handcuff you with, this is the only data you can have, or you can't, unless you're on-prem, you can't create your own queries, or, God forbid you create a custom field and want to report on that. So I constantly found myself being handcuffed by the tools I was using to present the data in the way that I wanted. And the light bulb went off that I realized, well, I'm really good at pulling this data with Rewst and massaging it how I want. And then I just went down a rabbit hole of kind of building my own little reporting engine. And this is still kind of beta, so welcome to suggestions, but hopefully this inspires some other people. So us being a management consultant firm for MSPs, we do a lot of the common KPIs. We look a lot at utilization, AGP, how are your techs performing. So what I did was I started out with a workflow that was running monthly to just collect our stats. So the first thing it's doing is it's pulling in some org variables that I set. What's your internal company ID and your PSA? What's the ID that you're using for your PTO charge code? And what are members that we don't care about, like your salespeople? We don't care if they're billing or not. And then what I'm doing is I'm running a set of sub workflows. The first one is my member utilization one. What I like about this one is after I grab all my time entries, I'm able to massage the data. And I'd like to point out these bottom 3 things that I'm doing is I'm tracking how long between the end of the time entry and when the time entry was entered. And then in this scenario, I'm giving the user 8 hours after the time entry ended to put that time in. So as long as you put it in that business day, it's compliant. I know that there are other tools out there that do that, but they hard code it in of what's an on-time time entry. This allows me to do it on my terms. And so after I sum all that up, I get an output. And then this is a timesheet audit, and this is using some Rail endpoints to track what time your timesheet was submitted compared to the deadline. And again, this is just doing a math problem and checking if comparing the 2 dates. Okay. And then this is a pretty standard agreement gross profit report where I go through each agreement and I catch their cost by the time entries and by the agreement additions. What's cool, what I like about this is with the output, I'm also able to call out any additions that don't have a cost, because that is a sign of maybe a configuration error, as well as any time entered against the agreement that doesn't have a cost, which is a sign of maybe we've got a member that we forgot to put our cost in. And then I'm just cleaning up all that data and consolidating everything from the with items into some variables. And these are uploading into Azure data tables. This is Tim's crate, or this crate is available in the marketplace. And what this looks like, and this is a little watered down because I'm trying to hide things. I don't want everybody to see my company names. Here I can come in and see across all my clients, their agreement gross profit, their effective hourly rate, their time entry compliance, their timesheet compliance, their utilization. Here I can see all of these different clients and how they're trending month over month. Here's how I can see, drill into the client technicians and see how each technician is trending month over month. And this one's just drilled into me. You can see I stink at putting my time in on time because I'm too busy playing in Rewst. And here is where you can drill into, or you can see your companies and see how your agreements are performing over time. So this is really cool. This made a big difference for our consultants because we were able to really drill into our clients. But this was only running once a month. Wasn't really live data. And then the next level that I had was we had some dashboards that our consultants live off of, which are just our live utilization dashboards for us internally. And what I did was I created a database in Azure, and I created a workflow like this one that's just catching the time entry webhook, and it's massaging the data. And again, it's doing that same thing with the time entry compliance, but then I'm also able to classify these. We've got certain time buckets that go towards certain KPIs, and then it's uploading it into the to the database. What was cool about that is if I'm reading from a database, then in Power BI, it can be a direct query instead of an import, which means I'm not limited by the number of refreshes that Microsoft allows. And then we have, and this is all within the app builder or the app platform, we have this intranet where I'm putting all my new dashboards, and then anybody can click in here, and we've got our slicers, and now they can see their data. It's live, it's real time. And again, what I like about this is I don't have the limitations of this is the data you can pull, and that we have, I've run into with the other reporting tools on the market. And it's really, I'm presenting the data the way I want it presented. And in total, this cost me $30 a month for the database, and I probably overspec'd it.
Very cool. Love that, Will. Yeah, you're right. There's just so much data that folks have access to, and like you say, whenever it's kind of split across multiple tools, when really you just want everything in one place. So yeah, that was really cool to see. And as a bit of a chart nerd, I really like some of the graphs and things you're able to present. So you can massage the data accordingly. We can come full circle on our icebreaker there. Any questions? There's Jim Barry's got one in the chat for you, Will. How are you doing the hot refresh?
So when you build or when you connect to the data, if you connect directly, it's live. So there's an import option or there's a direct connection. And we didn't have the direct connect with the Azure data tables, or otherwise I would have left it there because I had no other problem using it. But I also found that having the data in a database is going to allow me to test out every reporting tool under the sun is just to find the perfect one. I mean, I like Power BI, but I'm not married to it. So if anybody has any recommendations of some open source ones, I'm happy to test it out and then kind of report back.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing, Will. Really appreciate that. Some great stuff in there. Next up, I'm going to call on Aaron from Transform, although I'm not seeing him in people. Aaron, are you there? Are you under a different name? Oh, there you are.
Here.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. We'll start just with the kind of same preliminary questions, Aaron. Like, who are you? Where are you from? How long have you been using Rewst for? And can you walk us through sort of the problem or the manual process that you're automating and showcasing today?
Yeah. So my name is Aaron Birch. We're located in Northeast Ohio. I've been using Rewst for anywhere from like 8 to 10 months now. It starts to kind of all blend together. But something I actually ran. I just realized my headset was tilted back a bit, and that's probably why it was difficult to hear me.
Oh yeah, you're sounding much clearer now. That's great.
Yeah, sorry about that. But one issue that I ran into was that I figured out that Microsoft doesn't deal well if there's a space after a group name. APIs, things like that, will see the space there, we'll see it as an actual character, and it's required to put it there to do any actions, anything like that with it. Whereas inside of the GUI of Microsoft, if you, for example, pull up that group, it shows you that space there at the end. However, if you try to remove it, if you try to act with that group, you try to search that group, that space at the end is an imaginary character. And it stops detecting it. If you try to remove the space, it just doesn't register that you even made a change to the group name. Which became very difficult with some of the groups and layouts and things like that we had. And I just ended up making a script that essentially scans and lists all the groups from the Microsoft tenant, checks if the last space, the last character is a space using, I'm pretty sure it's regex, and then goes ahead and just essentially renames it the same thing minus one character. So for example, we have a group test and then a space at the end. It'll rename it tests. And then, all of a second and a half later, it renames it test. And then from there, I'm able to grab that group with API calls and everything like that a lot easier because that imaginary character is no longer there.
Sweet. Yeah, I guess that would be, because that's something that'd be hard to catch visually, right? The old phantom character at the end, like someone doing a visual check may come back 2 or 3 times before they realize that that's what the problem is. So that's a really good mechanism to catch that and just get it sorted right away.
Yeah, so here, I'm going to share my screen real fast, and it's not an extravagant workflow or anything like that. Essentially just goes through, lists all the users with the Microsoft Graph, takes that output and puts it into a sub workflow right here, and JSON itemizes it so we can just kind of immediately call it and start working with that. It grabs the group and finishes that JSON conversion. And then from there, it'll go ahead and it'll grab that display name. And then just a simple no-op is actually what goes ahead and decides if there's a space after that. It's just true if it ends with a space, else false. If it goes down true, we know that, hey, it has a space at the end. It goes through, checks if it's a security group or a distribution. If it's a security group, it'll go ahead and automatically rename that. If it is a distribution or something like that, it creates an alert instead. And that was due to, I didn't want to just automatically rename distribution groups in case that they were linked to the UPN or anything like that of the group. So, if they're set up for, hey, all the new users email into this distribution group, and I go ahead and I make a change to that name, I don't want it going ahead and changing things that shouldn't be changed. So that one I have essentially set to do manually, but if it's a security group, it temporarily renames that, delays it for just a short period. There's actually no delays set inside of here. It just is kind of uses the block as a delay. And then it goes ahead and re-updates that name, stripping that space from it. So it uses the same exact values, everything like that. We just use the helpful Jinja filter strip to go ahead, take away that space at the end. And that'll go ahead and just kind of resolve that for us. And then if we, I had it set up to email. I think I accidentally removed that function when I was creating a open mic version of my template. But it was something that caused a few minor aggravations for me, and instead of continuing to run into it with other clients down the road and things like that, this just kind of goes ahead and continues to scan it. I've caught, I think, 5 or 6 groups with just spaces at the end of it. I've only had it cause issues 1 or 2 times when I'm actively doing things. However, I think it caused like 40 or 45 minutes of issues because I was just like, why isn't this group name working? It shows this is the name. This is the name I'm typing in. And then I ended up calling it by ID, and it called this, everything worked fine. So I looked at the quotes inside of the actual return, and I saw the space there. And yeah, that was a learning curve.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Like, this is such a good example of like a small irritating thing that can kind of really begin to grind your gears. And so taking the time just to build, like you've done here, a straightforward automation that just helps solve the problem really saves those headaches for future Aaron, right? So yeah, I'd love to see it.
And it does. Well, thank you for giving me the time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Anyone have any questions on that particular workflow? Please feel free to drop them in the chat. We can speak to them there. But next up, I am going to call on Nick from Marcus Networks, I believe. Nick, do we have you on the call?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, hey, Nick, can hear you loud and clear. Same kind of Kickstarter question to you, Nick. Who are you? Where are you from? Yeah, can maybe explain the problem or the manual process that you're automating and sharing with us today?
Yeah. So I'm Nick. I'm from Marcus Networking. We're an IT company based out of Phoenix, Arizona. The problem that I was facing, it's been kind of a long problem that's kind of just grown to now the point where I'm like, okay, now I kind of have to deal with this in some way. And it's with kind of like our billing. So we use Autotask as our PSA, and kind of all of our billing funnels right into that. And we have like different workflows for each service. And so each service can sometimes take a while to return stuff. So because of that, I started leveraging concurrency and threads in Rewst. But the problem is we kind of just want to click one little button and have them all run. And doing that really kind of bogs down the Rewst servers we found. So we wanted kind of a way that we could do that. So the thing that I created, and I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Bear with me, I'm only using one screen because I'm in our conference room and I'm not a Teams expert by any means. So hopefully you guys can see my screen now.
Yep, we got you.
Perfect. Okay, because I like puns, I named it the Queuwp after the coop. So basically what this does is it's like a queue for workflows that we run that schedules them so that they're all not running at the same time. And we don't have to like stagger them and like be like, okay, this one's done running, now we can run the next one. So let's start. It takes in 2 variables. So the first one's your thread weight, which is basically like the max amount of number of threads that you'd have running in whatever workflow you're using this for. It might not always hit that, but it's just there for like some safety. And then the workflow start is something I'll kind of go over later. It just determines whether or not the workflow is just starting or if it's finishing. So the first thing it does is it's going to get the max thread count from, let me move my Teams thing over here. It's going to get the max thread count, which is an org variable, and that's basically the limit of threads you want running at one time. Usually I have it set to 20, just so it doesn't go over 20 at one time. And then it's going to check just to make sure that the workflow it's running in is less than 20 or less than your max, just to make sure it actually will be able to run. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go in here. I have a workflow I made that just generates a 10-digit random number that's going to act as our kind of our process ID. And then this part is a little bit experimental. It doesn't always work, but it works well enough for me. where basically what it does is it looks at your thread weight in here, and based on that, it assigns a delay. And what this is kind of designed to do is to let workflows with less threads run first and get themselves out of the way, and then the bigger ones with more threads kind of run at the end. Like I said, sometimes one that's bigger sneaks in there before one that's smaller. It's not a perfect system, and I'm still kind of looking on improving it, but it works well enough for now. So yeah, then it's going to return that. It's going to delay to give a chance for the smaller ones to get in there first. And then I'll bring up my org variables here. So this is like what an organization would have in it, basically. So you've got your mutual exclusion lock, which is going to prevent race conditions, basically. And what it's looking for is it's looking for this to be -1, which means no one has access to it right now. If it sees that, it's going to change it to be the workflow's process ID so that it knows that it's got that. It's then going to delay for like a second. Moving stuff around. It's going to delay for like a second in here, and it's going to check it again. And if it's the same as its own process ID, it kind of knows, hey, okay, I have this. No one else has this. I can now look at the data and make sure that I have a correct and accurate count. So then what it's going to do is it's going to look at this current thread count in here, and it's going to see how many are in there. It's going to then decide whether or not we're actually starting a workflow or finishing one. And if it's starting, it's going to check and make sure there's actually room for it. So what it's going to do is it's going to take your current thread count, add whatever the current workflow's thread weight is, and make sure that it's less than the maximum so we don't go over that. If it's the end of a workflow, all it's going to do is try to update it and remove itself because we want to make sure that once it's done, basically it's subtracting the number of threads it was using. Because it's done, it can clear some space for a new workflow to start running. If there's not enough space, it's just going to basically reset the lock back to -1 to say, hey, I'm done with this. I don't need it anymore. And it's going to go back and try and do it all over again. And then, yeah, if any of these succeed, both the finishing of the workflow or the starting, it's going to update it again, let it know it's done with that, release. And then after that, it's just going to start the workflow. So that's kind of an overview of this whole thing. I have a tester here, basically, that just runs 8 blank kind of workflows here. All they do is they have the one at the beginning, they just delay for a few seconds, and then it goes to the end. So you can see up here, we have our thread weight. I just set this one to 9. They're all kind of different thread weights just to make sure we can get a variety. It delays for a few seconds, and then it comes back. And you can see in here, I have my thread weight passed in. This is the checkbox that I was talking about earlier. So this, we want to start the workflow, then it's going to go into the workflow. Then when we go back down here, if it's not starting, it's obviously finishing. So we uncheck that, and it knows it's going to finish, and it's going to remove itself. So let's take a look at it running now. Hopefully it runs and it doesn't give me errors. All right, we'll test this. Take a look at it. I'll also pull up this too, and we should see, we refresh here. Should see, yep, so there's already some popping in. And then once they finish, we should see some successful tasks start going in here. All right, so it looks like one with a thread count of 5 made it in. It looks like that was this one. And I won't make us sit through this whole thing, but I kind of just want to give you an idea. All right, and then it looks like one with like a 9 thread count went in there. So probably only has room for like another 5 if we've got one. Yeah, and then they'll just run through here once they get to their, once it's done, it'll go back in here. It'll start looking again to see, hey, can I get in? Can I release my thread count? And then once it does that, we should see it complete. So I guess while we're waiting, does anyone have any questions? I don't know how I can see chat. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can just pop back into the Teams here.
Pretty much just, this is incredible. This is amazing.
It's
Wonderful
modeled
work.
off of a CPU, like a resource handler in your computer. I took a class in college on operating systems, and it's kind of immediately what my mind went to when I was figuring out how to do this. So it looks like we're getting some finishing now. So yeah, that's kind of all I have. But
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, lots
yeah,
of
no problem.
great comments through coming in the chat. Got asked the question, is this something how do you feel about like sharing this in Discord? Is this something other folks can make use of?
Of course, yeah. I'm still tinkering with it a little bit, just to, I guess, see if I can make it a little more efficient, because it does sometimes hang up a little longer than I'd like. I mean, it gets through it for the most part, but yeah, for sure, I think this would be a really cool thing. I've been working on this for the past few weeks, and I almost constantly have the like the is Rewst fast page up, checking to make sure,
Right.
like trying to see if I'm making a dent, or if it's going really, really high as far as the execution times. And we've already implemented it for the auto task billing thing that we have. And as far as I can tell, it's kind of hard to tell because you don't know who else is running stuff at the time. But as far as I can tell, we're not really affecting things much, which is a good sign. So.
Yeah, well, loads of people are loving it in the chat here. I as mentioned, like if you're able to post it and share it in Discord, I'm sure there'd be more than a handful of people that would be willing to help collaborate and help fix any of the things that you need help with. So thanks so much for sharing. Really cool workflow. Yeah. Anyone have any other questions on the call, just around any of the workflows or automations that we've seen in general, or kind of can also open up for general Q&A if there's anything anyone wants to ask now on the call as well? One thing I was kind of curious to pose to you all is just off the back of Aaron and Nick's workflows, that there kind of comes a point where I guess as workers, we have pains that we come across and then kind of go, oh, right, I'll just automate this. I'm kind of just curious to get a sense from folks online, like what is that point? Like, is it after it's happened 2 or 3 times? Is it when it's happening on a weekly basis? At what point do you just decide, okay, I'm just going to take the time to automate this now?
I think it's kind of different times for each, at least for me. It depends on, am I going to remember this the next time I run across it? It's very much just kind of a case-by-case basis, at least for me. If I'm running into something extremely consistently, though, then it's definitely going to be a higher priority to try to automate that, just for the reason of I've ran into this 8 or 9 times now. It takes 20 or 30 minutes each time I'm doing that. And now we're at the ballpark of give or take, 3 or 4 hours spent on this when I could have just spent a 25, 30-minute automation real fast, made it, and not ran into the problem again.
Off the back of that, does anyone have any systems in place at their MSP whereby people are submitting things for automations? Aaron likes to say, unsuck the suck, and there's lots of sucky processes that we're always, trying to improve and make more efficient. Does anyone have a cool process at their MSP where other colleagues or staff members are submitting things that, are manual and terrible that they want you guys to build or improve? And if so, how are you using that? Rewst forms? Carrier pigeon?
As of now, I use an Excel sheet, but using a Rewst form would be a phenomenal idea, actually.
I set up a canny. It's free.
DMs that I forget. Tickets, crew. DMs that I forget. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, one of the other things I wanted to highlight as well, if you haven't seen it already, you should head over to Rewst LinkedIn. There's a post today about our upcoming webinar in partnership with Auvik that is kind of centered all around, crushing the queue, using automation to solve network issues at scale. We did a really serious video. We kind of turned a bit of a corner and wanted to be a little bit more serious about how we're promoting this one. So would love if you guys can check that out on LinkedIn. Let us know your thoughts about our new promotional style. Check it out there with Nate and John Harden. And if you're using Auvik or you're interested in network issues, that's definitely a webinar you'll want to check out on May 15th later this month. Reed, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it's kind of on the back of Nick's workflow there, because I have something similar that I did a while ago, and just wanted to point out that in order to completely avoid race conditions, because unfortunately, if you try to use an org variable, it is possible for multiple workflows to hit that at the same time. What I did is create a template, because that fires earlier in the Rewst backend process, and you can't duplicate templates. So if you create a new template and use that as your locking mechanism, you can then read that template, you can delete that template, and you can be guaranteed that that will only occur once. There's no way to trip over creating and removing templates like you can trip over editing a org variable. So I've got a sample workflow. If you want to ping me offline and look at it sometime, I'd be happy to share it with you.
That would be awesome, because I wasn't exactly sure exactly how the org variables work with like race conditions within Rewst and stuff. So
yeah, I had to beat up the platform
awesome
to figure it out, and just kind of looking back at what was happening, and then like intentionally trying to break it. And like say that creating a template just happens at a earlier level inside of the platform, and it completely gets around that issue.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, a lot of the solutions, at least right now, are kind of just like, oh, it's good enough for what I'm using it for.
Yep.
And it's also like while it's running, I'm like watching it intently to see what it's doing. So
yeah, because I kind of like say I was doing something similar where basically I'm queuing up scripts inside of templates, and then I can ensure that they execute in a certain order.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for chiming in there, Reed. Anyone else have any other questions or comments or anything that they want to share in our last 10 minutes? Now is the time, either off the back of some of the workflows that we've seen from Nick, Will, and Aaron today, or maybe some of the product updates that Daniel shared, or even just a query or a question of something you're working on in Rewst today, that you want to share with the over 100 people on this call for some collaborative answers and knowledge sharing. Don't be shy, now's your time.
I was wondering if anybody already did any workflows pulling PST files from the Microsoft Purview area by chance. I was just about to start setting up a workflow to pull those, and it's going to be just straight API calls, because there's not really any building blocks inside of Rewst to do that automatically, except for the basic API calls. I'm just curious if anybody's already made a similar or something like that. does not seem like it, but I can go ahead and I can share that out and do a open mic of it once I do get that put together.
Yeah, appreciate it, Aaron. That would be good.
No problem.
There's a chat battle going on about screenshots here. In our chat, people challenging each other for screenshots of screenshots. Anyway, folks, well, if there is nothing else, we can wrap up a few minutes early today, unless someone wants to take the last opportunity for any Q&A. Just as we do wrap up, thanks again to Nick, Aaron, and Will for their demos. Really appreciate that. If there's anyone here who has yet to present on Open Mic and is interested in sharing something, we do have a sign-up form that goes out with the email, or you can DM me on Discord or reach out to Ashley. This is one of the best attended calls in the channel, of people sharing some really cool ideas of the stuff they're doing. And so yeah, it's a great opportunity to learn, get inspiration, and as Aaron says, a little bit of R&D, rob and duplicate, always a good thing as well. For any of the folks who are watching this while traveling or on the road or already at MSPGeekCon down in Florida, Rewst will of course be there with the booth next week, so make sure you stop by and say hello. Myself, Tim, and a couple others will be there, so would love to see you in person and hear about all the good things you're doing. But that is it from me. That is it for the agenda today. Thanks for everyone for attending, and we will see you all next week. Have a lovely Friday and a safe weekend. Enjoy your massages.
Meow. Meow.
Meow.